Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome. It's great that all of you can join us today for the Employee Engagement webinar. I do see a few new names that I haven't seen before, so welcome. It's great that you can join. A few administrative arrangements. You will notice that your microphone is currently on the forced mute setting. It will remain like that for the duration of the webinar and the presentation. Towards the end, I will enable the setting for you to unmute yourself, and then you will be welcome to participate in a live question and answer session. In the meantime, during the course of the presentation, should you have a burning question, you're welcome to make use of the chat functionality. Just post your question in the chat. I will then present the questions to the presenter, Pieter de Villiers, as soon as we enable the setting for you to ask questions. My name is Lizette de Villiers. I will be the host this afternoon, and I will shortly hand to Pieter, who's the presenter. Pieter de Villiers, he's the author and functional developer of the Shadowmatch system, and currently still holds the role of Head of Research and Development at Shadowmatch. You will also see that we are recording this session. This will become part of our library of resources on our YouTube channel, and you will also find the recording on the Shadowmatch events calendar later today or early tomorrow morning. So if you go to shadowmatch.com and you click on the events tab in the top menu, you will be able to navigate to the calendar, and on today's date, you will then find the recording. You will also find recordings of previous webinars that we've done since we started in January. All those recording links are available on the Shadowmatch calendar, and all upcoming events, either the landing page or the Zoom link, is also available on the calendar should you wish to join in future. From my side, that's all. Thank you very much, Pieter. Over to you.
Thank you, Lizette. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining this webinar on employee engagement. It's a fascinating topic, very interesting. Some of the surprises that came out in the research is a bit of a shocking discovery for myself. I've been working in this environment for many years, and some of the research that's been published recently indicate that things are not as simple as we think it is, and sometimes it is even much easier and much more simplified than what we think. Before we start, just a quick example on how to understand employee engagement and participation, active participation of employees. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you have a programmer, and this programmer is responsible for developing software. The first example is the programmer is uninvolved, does a good job, good programmer, does a good job, everything is fine, everything works, but you give the programmer, the software developer, a spec or a specification that must be developed. So what the programmer does, the uninvolved one, is they put up the spec, and then they start programming. And they program what the specifications that they have been given tells them. That's it. And they do a good job. And they code the spec so that the computer can do what the specification says it must do. And then at the end, the people who develop the spec says, but this is not right. This shouldn't work like this. Ask the programmer, what happened here? I did what the specification said, and they did. The second example is a programmer that is an engaging or an engaged employee. Give that programmer a spec, they read through it, and they come back and they say, this is not going to work. We can't build this. There are some thinking errors in this. This is not going to work. You must either rethink this, or we must sit around the table so that we show you what the errors are. And I can now stack up. You have a pharmacist. The pharmacist get a formula that they must mix from a medical doctor. They throw the things together, put it out. The client must drink it. The next pharmacist read the mixture and says, something is wrong. This is not right. Phone the doctor, says to the doctor, are you sure that this person with this weight or this child with this weight must drink this? The doctor said, oh, no, I made a mistake. The one is involved. Remember, the one that is uninvolved, that does nothing wrong. They do what they were told to do. But the point is, they do not engage what they were told. They do not critically engage the information that's been given to them. Now, with that, just as sort of a blurred example, we're going to work through a few interesting research points and research indications. I'm going to share my screen with you, take the faces away, and then off we go. So there's something interesting that I want to share with you. If we divide employees in terms of their engagement with the content of the work and the content of the task and their careers and the workplace, they fall out in three groups. You have people that with a low engagement profile. Now, we'll discuss this, but this is people, they are the ones that they do the job, but they are not actively, cognitively involved, critically involved in what they do. Then the second layer is healthy constructive engagement. These people say, they are the ones that say, no. You can't do this. I know that this is the spec that's been given to me, but this is not going to work. Or this, the mixture that you suggest, Mr. Medical Doctor, it's not going to work. It can cause damage to the patient. So these people are healthy and constructively engaged. Then there's a portion of unsustainable over-engagement. This one I haven't seen. I've seen when I read about the information and I read some of the research on this, I can remember that I've seen this. And if I think back over the weeks that I've been preparing this webinar, I can think of increasingly more examples of people that are unhealthy or unsustainably over-engaged. Now let's have a look at what it is. About 65% of employees, global, this is actually American and Canada was the research business environment, but it seems to be something that is globally true. It can vary, but it's around about 55 to maximum 70% of employees are somewhere here in the low engagement. On a high end, they do their work. On the low end, they are a problem. On the high end of this scale, they do the job and they do a good job. They do what they must do. They work from 8 to 5. They go home at 5 o'clock. If you give them a spec, they build the spec. They mix the medicine. They do what they are told. They do a good job. At the lower end, it becomes a problem. Then they don't see the customer in the queue and they don't care. We see this quite often, especially in customer service, where people hang around. There are 12 people in the queue that needs to be serviced. There are 5 service agents. There's only 1 at the service point active servicing clients, but the others say, well, it's my tea break or whatever the reasons are. They just don't engage the problem and actively work with it. Then you get 31%, according to this research, that sits in the healthy and constructive engagement profile. And then 4% there that are overly and unsustainable over engagement. That's their profile. So what do we mean with this? About 65 sits here on the high end, they do a good job. Okay, we are cool with that, I hope. And then this is where a business wants 80% of their employees to function. Why 80%? It's not really, if you have high numbers of employees, you won't be able to get it above 80%. If you have less than 50 people working for the business, you can get it up to 90-95% with effort. But if you are less than 25, it's quite easy to have a high percentage of highly engaged people in their careers and in their work and in the business. But this is the optimal profile, as this is where companies should target to have 80% of their workforce is in this healthy and constructive engagement. This is a problem area, dear delegates. this area on the top end here, the unsustainable over engagement group, this 4 to 5%, max 5% of a big business. There's a high risk for these people to burn out because they can't stop. They cannot stop working. They cannot go home. They cannot lock their doors. They cannot go on holiday, on vacation. They cannot take a week off. They cannot take a day off. They can't do it. And if they take a day off, they work. They take the day off to be with their children, but they are actually on their phone or on their emails or whatever it might be. They cannot disengage from the workplace. Now, this is obviously not a good situation to be in because there's a high risk of burnout. They frustrate their colleagues. These people can become an irritation for their colleagues because they want everybody to listen to their ideas and to dance according to their music because they are so engaged and actively involved in the demands of the workplace that they want to fix everything and they cannot stop. And then they overplay. There's a high risk that they might overplay their skills. What does this mean? They think they know everything and they want to tell everybody how they should do their job. This is not a good thing because what these people actually do is they force these ones to become unengaged. So these are in some cases being seen as very competent people, but what they do is they push this ceiling down, and some of these individuals then become uninvolved because they say, oh, well, he will probably do it better, or he knows better, or he will want to do it his way. So it's not a healthy situation. What we must understand is that we want a good balance in the mid area. So we have a long history of trying to get people engaged in their working environment and in the workplace and in the work that they do. And a lot of things have been done over time. There are obviously a lot of these service providers and planners and whatever it might be with ideas to get people more engaged in the work they do. Most advocates of these practices have proof that it works. Fact is, it doesn't. These things do not work. These are gimmicks. It's a gimmick or a flavor of the month. It doesn't work. Over a long period of time, it doesn't work. And if you have a customer or some big employer that says, but this work, I would like to see the stats. I would like to see the numbers, because the numbers that have been researched, they show that it works for a short period of time. Let me give you a few examples. Points for coffee. So if you do a certain number of things in your job, you get points, you gain points, and then you can swap the points at a coffee shop for coffee, or you have half a day off, or 30 minutes with a CEO, or you get a gift voucher. Parties at work and fun breakaway events. It's fun. Yes, it's fun. It's a positive experience for people, but it doesn't create a higher level of work content engagement. Star of the month flag. I've seen this many times in the customer service environment where somebody would get the star of the month flag and they are very proud of themselves. And after 6 months, the flag is somewhere and it lies around the corner, or it just doesn't work anymore. Games to play at work, it's great, it's fun, it's a nice to have, but it doesn't create employee engagement with the content of their work. In fact, over a long period of time, it creates the opposite. It's got a negative, more negative long term. This has got a more negative effect on the workplace than positive. A chill room where employees can hang around, also being seen and sold to companies as this great idea. A chill room where people can take a time out and there are some luxury chairs. It works. Over a long period of time, it doesn't work. It creates a problem, because what the other employees say, oh yes, where's Peter now? He's in the chill room. Where's Peter? Oh, he's in the chill room lying around, or he's in the playground. So it starts to build up a subculture at work. Funky painted walls with photos of employees, it's great. Doesn't, over a long period of time, it doesn't give a higher level of cognitive engagement with the work content. Gym at work with free access for those who do special stuff at work. It's a great idea. It's fun and it's funky for the employees. It doesn't work as an engagement function in the workplace. So let's have a look at making markings of an unengaged employee. What is it that we refer to if we say that somebody is not engaged in the work content or in the workplace? They are mostly clock watchers. What do we mean with that? They watch the clock for 5 o'clock and they will park in front of the office. And if you ask them, why are you not coming in? They would say, it's not 8 o'clock yet. It's 10:02. And then at 4:45, you will see them start to hang around and they've got their laptops packed and they start to drink water, because at 5 o'clock, when security opens the gate, they're gone. They're clock watchers. They wait to be told what to do. This is an important side of things. If there's nothing to do, they do nothing. If they are being told to do something, they do it, and they do it well. There's nothing wrong. They do it well. They do it mechanically, but they do it well. They do what they are told to do. Yes, they wait. What are you doing? No, I don't have anything to do now. And now my boss will tell me what to do, or my supervisor will tell me, or my manager will tell me what to do, or my exec will tell me what to do. And what in between? No, nothing. I wait. So they do what they are told, but that's it. They do not understand why they do things. This is a bit of an advanced crisis. They do not see their role in the bigger picture of the success of a business. They do not understand this thing that I'm doing now. If you ask them, why are you doing this? They don't have a clear picture. They don't see their role in the chain of events that makes the business work. And they don't put it together. They see it as a task. I've got to execute this task, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm being paid for. They are just in it for the money. This is quite an important thing. On the question, why do you work? I have to work, because if I don't work, I don't have money. They stay out of trouble so that they stay in the money. They do not have a connected understanding of salaries and business success. Now, dear delegates, I can tell you horror stories about this. I can tell you the most horrific stories about the connection between business success and the work that somebody does. And I don't want to go into examples, but somebody once said to me, now I must go to some other service provider because this one that they work for is too expensive. So I said, okay. So if I now go to another service provider, how do you get paid a salary? And they said to me, no. We not get paid a salary by you. We get paid a salary by the business owner. I said, but yes, if I don't pay for this, no. They said, no, it's got nothing to do with one another. The business owner must pay me my salary. And by the way, they pay me from the bank and you pay cash. So they take the cash, they put it in their pockets and they pay us from a banking account. They don't see and these are not stupid people. They see a business as an institution with the ability to pay salaries. And the fact that I have to be productive to sustain that salary, they do not make that connection. The government must have money to pay me. How can the government not have money? The mine or whatever it might be. So there's a disconnect between the role that I play and the fact that my productivity creates an income for the business and that pays my salary. That connection is absent in many instances. They manage tasks, not purpose. This is a critical point that we must understand. They manage and they execute a task, not a purpose in the business. And if you ask some of those individuals, what is the purpose of your task, they battle. They battle to see the purpose of what they do. And then they are extremely self-centered instead of business-centered. Obviously, their own priorities their own interests take priority over and above the business priorities. This is quite an important indicator of somebody that is not an engaged employee or an engaged person. They do what is on their performance management sheet. This is quite important, dear delegates, and I understand the reason behind this, but if you ask somebody that is unengaged or on the lower ends of participative engagement in their workplace, and you ask them to do something outside of their performance management contract, they would say to you, this is not my work. This is not my job. And technically they are right. But there's a big but. But is that the optimal way of working for an employer? They lack initiative and understanding of business purpose, despite the fact that they manage they manage tasks and not purpose, and how they do not understand why they do things. They also do not understand this business purpose that they serve. So what is the purpose of the business? What is the service that the business provides its customers? And they lack initiative and understanding to improve and to make the business function more optimally. They don't see that connections because they don't have that level of involvement. They work mechanically and not intellectually. They do the things. Yes, they do the things, but they are not involved in the understanding of the why they do these things and why is it necessary and why is it important. Sometimes they do whatever they can to get away with things. Well, obviously, that is the purpose then of being at work. So this is what an engaged employee do. This is also a list of what are the markings of an engaged employee. In other words, the green group in the middle, where we want, obviously, where companies would like their employees to be. And just as a matter of interest, it's also in the interest of the employee to be involved. And there are specific reasons why they are involved or not involved. These individuals display an active interest in the broad service and functions of the business. They ask why questions. They are interested in, but what is it that we provide clients with? What is the service that we offer? What is the product that we sell? So they take an active interest in the broader business function and purpose. They know exactly what their role is for the strategic success of the business. This is an important indicator of somebody that is engaged in the workplace. They know that my role in the big picture is this. If I don't do this, the big picture will suffer as a result of this and this and this, and the ripple effect of my absence will be this and this and this. So they know exactly what their role is in the strategic framework of the business. And obviously, for them to know it, it's a leadership function. Leaders must make people aware of their role in the strategic success of the business. They find better ways for their personal job functions, and they do it. They have this initiative to say, but I know that we've been doing this in this way for many years, but there are some better ways, and I must find it. And they table it, and sometimes they implement it as well, even without asking permission, because they know it's better and they must be allowed to do that. They are eager to help others and coach where necessary. They know what is the collective importance of success, and they understand that if my colleague is not successful, and I can help my colleague, it serves the interest of the business, and they obviously do it spontaneously. They portray a positive spirit about the business and what the business offers. They are always positive about the business. They like the business. They like the products and the services and the offerings that the business has, and they are loyal to that business. Again, we don't have time, but I can share with you the most horrific stories one day when I went to a bank. Now I asked the person, what is the process of opening a bank account? And it was a she. She said to me, don't open a bank account here, sir, it's a mess. I said, what are you saying? She said, it's a mess. Don't open your bank account. Go to any other bank. Don't do it here. So that's not, obviously, either the business is really a problem or the individual is the challenge. Improve business function outside of their span of control. If they see something outside of their immediate environment that doesn't work optimally, they will address it and try to fix it and try to make it better. They become positive agents for the business. This is quite important. They carry a positive message about the business. They are marketing agents for the business. They are proud of the business, and they are convinced that the business that they serve is also a servant of the clients, and it's for the better of building a better world. They do not work from 8 to 5. This is quite important. Remember the guys at the top, the 5%, they can't stop working. These people, healthy, engaged employees, do stop, but they do not stop when there's a crisis. They work when there is work that needs to be done. So if it's 5 o'clock and they are on a tough deadline with an important project that they need to get sign off for, and they need to work till 6 o'clock, they do it. The unengaged people say, I'll finish this tomorrow. There's nothing that can't wait for 2 weeks, except for a funeral. So this is what they normally do. They can work late, they can start early, but it's not the norm. Remember, it's not the norm. The balanced, engaged employee finished the job at hand within the timelines. But if it has to be done, they can run over time. This is a positive point, but they are not obsessed. So they don't work till 10 o'clock every evening. That's burnout, and that is over-engagement. That is not healthy for the individual and also not for the business. They meet their deadlines every time. This is quite an important point, dear delegates. These people do not agree for a deadline that is not possible. And they will voice it right at the beginning of the project or whatever it might be. And they would say, this deadline is impossible, because what they want to do is they want a deadline that is possible and that they can sign for, and they meet the deadline. So they have the maturity and the engagement with a job at hand that they know this is not possible. But can we get another week or another 10 working days? That's possible. That I will meet, and they will meet that deadline because they are intelligent and involved enough to understand unreasonable deadlines. They set their own deadlines and they announce it. This is also an important, they will tell people, I'll be done with this by Friday, and watch them. Friday, they will be done. So they set their own deadlines, they announce it, they commit to it, and they deliver against those deadlines. This is quite an important part of an involved, balanced, involved individual. And the deadlines that they set are within their reasonable capabilities and timelines. They are on top of everything most of the time. So these individuals are most of the time, they are on top of their jobs and they're on top of what they do. Now, how do we manage for involvement, for engagement? How do we get a workforce to be engaged? Now, dear delegates, these 12 points are absolutely critical. And we can use this sort of as a tick list of how we manage a business. And these are important things. And everybody who's involved with running a business or consulting to a business or helping a company to improve their employee engagement index, these are the critical points. The first thing is we must communicate. And we must communicate in the most transparent way we can. People cannot pitch at Oliver Tambo International Airport and then go stand in the queue at an airline service provider to hear that the service provider has closed down. It can't happen. It cannot happen. It is impossible. It cannot happen. The employees didn't even know what's going on. And this is a factual scenario, just fresh off the printing, the press. It can't happen. We must communicate with people, especially employees, in a transparent and honest manner. And sometimes leaders, I don't know why we do this, but they say, no, it's not true. No money was stolen from my house or my farm, nothing. And then eventually, oh yes, no, it was $1,000. Oh no, it was $4 million. We can't do this. In a business, it's not an intelligent thing to do. We must communicate. If we want people to engage, we must communicate with them. We must involve people. People must feel that they are a participating entity in the mechanics of a business. We cannot decide on behalf of somebody how things should be done. People must be part of the process to make decisions, and even on a very junior level. We must involve people to become participants in the decision-making and the direction of the business. And it must happen right through the ranks of the business. We must enable and empower. Don't push the ideas of an employee back. Listen to them and take very serious note of any ideas that employees have. Because if you push their ideas back, what they say is, who cares? I've got a lot of ideas, but nobody wants to listen to them. So don't do it. Trust them to do the things different and new things, to do different and new things. We must trust people to do things in a different way. We must trust people to say, but you know what? We've been doing this for many years this way. I'm going to do it in a different way. And if it's not business critical, let them do it. And if it's business critical, then let them still do it, but make sure that it works. Remember, people make the things work that they believe will work. That's just how we are put together. We make the things we believe will work, we make them work. Don't take their initiatives away. Never take the initiative. An initiative by a person is a sign of engagement. Don't take it away. What you do is you push the person down the engagement rankings, and they eventually disengage and they just do things mechanically. Let them focus on tasks related to their strongest habits. I'll show you an example. Now, dear delegates, Lizette told you that I'm the head of research and development at ShadowMatch, a product that I've built over the last 30 years, well, whatever, many years. If somebody has to work every day on work content that is dependent on their low habits, it is not sustainable. They disengage, they do it mechanically, they hate it, they go home and they hate their jobs. This is the most critical thing that I can give you case studies about this. If the work that I do if that work hammers my lowest habits, I'm not going to engage with a job. I'll do it mechanically. I'll do it because I don't have an alternative, but it's not a long-term sustainable way of working. We must actively develop the habits critical for their job. If I have to work in an environment where there's a higher demand on my lower habits that I have available energy for, those habits must be developed. We must develop that. I skipped the one. Let them focus on tasks related to their strongest habits. I'll show you an example. We must sit with somebody, dear delegates, and have a look at their ShadowMatch results and say, okay, I can see your strongest habits are altruism, people positive, team inclination, propensity to handoff. Good. How can we make a shift in your working environment so that these habits are entertained actively. I also see that you have these habits, problem solving, propensity to change and to simplify as low habits. How can we help that these tasks do not fatigue your low habits? How can we work around it? And then if there's no way out, in other words, I have to work with people, there's no alternative, I have to work with people, then help me develop that habit. It's easy. There's a personal development program on Shadowmatch and it can be done. It's not that difficult. It's a process. It's not an exam. It's not a test that you must pass. It's a process. Habits are, we learn habits as a result of repetition of a process. So help the individual to develop the habits where they are under pressure and they do not have strong enough habits for the job. Then most important amongst all these, as important as the three above, coach them. Make active professional coaching available to people. And companies say it's too expensive. It is not. If you think about the losses of productivity, innovation, initiatives, taking ownership of additional tasks, if you think about the results of coaching as a benefit in the business, the investment you make to help to have the individuals coached is nothing. It is nothing. If you work it out as a percentage of their salaries, it's even less. So make an investment, coach the people so that we optimize their success in the workplace. Inform them about the skills they could develop for success in the job. We can match the skills of an individual to the skills of top performers and identify where there is a lack of skill for the individual to be able to do the job and help the individual to develop those skills, because by doing that, you invest in their engagement in the workplace. Play their failures down. Ignore it if at all possible. Don't, if you are a manager, a senior exec, a team leader, a supervisor, or a CEO of a business, don't put emphasis on the failures or the mistakes people make. They become unengaged. If you can, ignore it or use it as an opportunity to teach them something positive or to allow them to learn something. We have this thing about management sometimes in business where they hammer the mistakes people make. Don't do it. There is no benefit for a healthy workforce in that. Then trust them. We must trust our people. And if we can't trust them, then go back to your recruitment office, because that is where the failure started. The recruitment process has recruited people that are not trustworthy. The recruitment process needs serious attention, because if we cannot trust our people, where do we get these people from? How did it happen that we now ended up with a workforce that is not reliable and we can't trust? They've been recruited. By whom? By the recruitment office. So we must then revisit the recruitment process and the recruitment office and say, guys, this is not working. This is seriously not working for us. Somewhere there is something wrong. Now, what I will do is, these are the Shadowmatch results for you who are not familiar with Shadowmatch. It measures habits, and these habits are then presented as numbers in a graph. And these are the headline habits. We measure 19 habits, 20 there, 21 there, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25 habits that we measure. This is a combination of 4 habits clustered in an attitude graph. But let me give you an example of this individual. If this individual has to work in a working environment where there is continuous change, work with people in intense people relationship, helping them to get through a process, it can't work. It's not going to work. This is not, and maybe there's a little bit of conflict also in the working environment there with a relative not a prominent habit there. We cannot expect this person to do a job where things change all the time, where there's high demand on people relationship, and with that, there's a high demand on helping people without getting something back for it. It's not going to work. The person might be capable of doing the job, but they will disengage and start to do it mechanically, just as a process that they do not like, and eventually they will completely disengage and just do it because it has to be done. And there will be no initiative, there will be no additional productivity, there will be no innovation. It will just be a mundane 8 to 5 punishment. But if I can help this person and I can say, oh, wait, let's have a look at your results. I say that you love working with conceptual problems. You scored 7 out of 10 resolving these riddles. This is quite high. You like working, you have a habit to positively engage riddles that must be resolved. I see that you simplify them. Strong habit of simplification. You also have a strong habit of problem solving. You have a strong discipline habit. I like this. Let's make some changes to the work that you do. And we put emphasis on problems that must be resolved. We bring a solution to a problem to the table. You can simplify processes whenever you find processes to be simplified, and you work in a structured, in a routine and a structured environment. What I do is I give the individual the opportunity to let their strong habits function without being under pressure. These habits function by themselves. It's easy for them to engage problems, to simplify them, to work in a routine, highly disciplined environment, and to solve problems and bring solutions to the table. Now, suddenly the individual becomes much more involved. There's a higher level of participation, higher level of productivity, and a higher level of job satisfaction, and you get a happy individual, much more fulfilled from the workplace than previously being under pressure to work in a changing environment with people, helping them. There's a bit of conflict and it just doesn't work. So this is what Shadow Match helps the management team to do. If somebody is not engaged in the workplace. So it's not something, it's not a gimmick-driven process or a program. This is individually unique, it's individualized, and it's specific, and it helps the individual to be much more fulfilled in the work that they do and have a higher level of career fulfillment. What if we cannot change the job content or the working environment? Then start here. Let's start to develop this habit. Put the individual on a personal development program to help strengthen and build more points here to be available for the job. And after that, we take people positive. After that, we take propensity to change. And now we are 12, 18 months down the line. The person has grown as an individual, and the person is much more capable of dealing with a working environment in a more natural way based on the growth that they experience as a result of the personal development program. With that, guys and girls, and everybody, with that, this Wednesday we have training for coaches, live coaching group, and back to Lizette. If there are any questions, I'm willing to help answer them. Thank you, Lizette.
Thank you, Peter, for another insightful webinar. Very good content, and I'm sure all of us have learned something. And if some of you are employees, you can go back to your manager, let them listen to the recording. Those that are leaders, I think this was very valuable information. Peter, there were 2 comments, but what I'll do now is I'm going to stop the recording, and then I will start to ask the questions. So allow me a moment to stop the recording.